Okay, guys, I think we'll kick off. Welcome to Online Tutorial Week 2. If you could all just take your mics off, because I'll start by taking the roll. I might have to take it again at the end of the lesson just to allow people to come. Okay, so Khaled? No. Abdullah? Chloe? James Nichols? Corin? Madeline?
Here.
Emily? Is Emily here?
Yep, I got it.
Yeah, Emily. Tori? Daniel? Okay. Lewis? Enzo? No.
Yep.
Yeah, Enzo's here.
Yep, right here.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. All right. Enzo's here. Dalton? Is Dalton here? No.
Yep, here.
Dalton's here?
Yep.
Okay. Speak up, guys, because I can't see all of your screens on my screen. So if you talk, your image will pop up. Okay. Arta?
Yep.
Yep. Thanyada?
Yes.
Yep. Gayaduri? No. Kevin?
Yep.
Yep. I know John Dillon. John Dillon, you're here? Yep. Okay. I will take it again at the end just because I think we've got a few people missing there. All right.
Beck?
Yep.
My name's not on the list because I haven't registered yet, but my name's Joshua Dunn.
Hi, Joshua.
On the list because I haven't.
That's okay, Joshua. All right. Have you emailed Kathy to let her know?
No, I just haven't registered in Allocate. Like I haven't put it in.
All right. Fair enough. That's all right. No worries. Okay. Thanks, Joshua. All right. So just to go through, can you all see my screen firstly?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So just really quickly, a little bit of an introduction to me. My name's Rebecca Bidaxis. You can call me Beck. I am a practicing solicitor and managing partner of a law firm. My main areas of practice are civil law, negligence, so contributory negligence, tort law. I litigate in family law and care and protection law, so I deal with children. I do a lot of work in commercial and contract law, and I also do law in the Victims Compensation and Rehabilitation Tribunal. So that's a little bit about me. What we'll be doing today is discussing the sources of law, so how law is made, the divisions of law. We'll be going through your activity, so I hope you all have your worksheets with you. There was the court hierarchy worksheet as well as the fundamental legal principles worksheet, and we'll go through them in some more detail later throughout the tutorial. But essentially, we will be discussing the rule of law and the separation of powers. Before we kick off though, I'll just go through some weekly reminders. So remember, your online tutorial participation starts today. So I will be asking you a lot of questions in this tutorial. I will not be spoon feeding you. I want you to generate discussion amongst yourselves. There is no right or wrong answer. We're here. I'll be a facilitator. So I'll be probing you. I'll call on you randomly to give your opinion about something. And remember, it's your opinion, so you're entitled to give it. Nothing is taboo. And also remember that you do have to post your discussions online, so I'll be marking them as well. The close time, I guess you could say, is Friday 5 p.m, and I'll be marking them thereafter. With respect to your online tutorial presentations that commence in week 6 and 7. They open, so the allocations for your groups open on Monday the 19th of December. They open at 7 a.m, so you'll be able to log on and pick, if you know each other, you can pick your group members, you can pick your topic. It is very much first in, first serve, so just remember to do that, diarise it and get the topic that you want. If you have any questions about that, you can email me. The email there is incorrect. It's not R by Daxis, it's B by Daxis. So just make a note of that and feel free to email me if you need help or assistance with any of the research or things like that, okay? Or if you want to discuss a different topic area, all right? So we'll just, we'll kick off then today. So lawmaking in Australia. Really quickly, let's ask the very basic question. What is law?
It's a social norm that we created, and isn't that we have to implement it by someone who has the authority to do so?
Okay, so sorry, if before you commence speaking, could you just say your name for me because you don't all appear on my screen?
Tanyada, you can call me Tanya.
Tanya, okay, yep. Yep, thank you. Anybody else? What is law?
John.
Sorry, John, was it?
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, what did you say, John?
Yeah, it also provides penalties for people who do not obey it.
So it's coercive and it's punitive in its nature? Yeah. Okay, I hope you've all read Kerridge chapter 4. So Kerridge discusses the notion of positivism and natural law. So who can tell me what positivism is?
Tanya?
Yeah.
Isn't that one you have to, as I said earlier, if someone do it with the power to make the law, then it's like the laws are being posited by those people who have the authority to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I think natural law got to do with the natural rights that you already have, and that get included in the law.
Do you think we tend to follow the theory of natural law or positivism more in Australia? Which one are we more inclined to lean towards?
Dalton. I'd say I think there's a fair amount of the positivism in that, you know, we from a young age we're taught a lot of morality based around rules and regulations.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of feeds back into the regulations that we end up making are based on the things that we think are right. So it's you get a little bit of a feedback loop in that.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody else want to add?
But then isn't the positivism like on that it just comes from natural law? The idea is that
So positivism is focusing on norms that have been created by a person. So what you said before, a body, the body has the authority to make the law. Okay.
I feel like those they are influenced by the fact that that's how things should be. I don't know, I'm just thinking like law that got to do with human rights.
So are you saying they sort of intertwine?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying they intertwine. Does anybody else agree? Anybody else want to share their views? Do you agree with Tanya?
Yeah, I do. My name's Joshua.
Yep.
I think they do intertwine, but I think I'd have to agree with Dalton with the fact that most of our laws that we follow are the positivism type because, especially in the Australian Constitution, a lot of our laws have been created by past events that have happened. Say, for example, like the gun laws or something that was created to stop something that happened, a couple of years ago, back in, the 2000s, or the 1990s when that big event happened. It was because of a situation it forced a change. Not so much that it's not natural, but it's just, because of an event, we wanted to create a change. And so that was the leading force of why we enforced that law.
Yeah. So what you've raised there in your explanation is the doctrine of precedent.
Yep.
You raised. So that answers the first question. What are some of the ways that law is made in Australia? So we have the doctrine of precedent. What else? Who makes law?
Is it is it Parliament? Like, do they?
So the legislature?
Yeah,
Legislation.
So basically, politicians that come and say, "Look, we need to make this law for this reason," and then obviously, if it gets passed through Parliament, then it becomes a law, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's right. How else do we make law?
But then you got the governor who have to pass the law. So you got isn't our government kind of divided into members of the parliament, and I think there's 2 groups. I don't remember who.
So what you're talking about there, Tanya, is the separation of powers, which we'll come to later. But what I was looking for was...
Aren't there different bodies? Like, they can influence the law?
Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
Aren't there different people?
Yeah, okay.
So they can influence how the law is made in Australia, right?
Okay. What about judges?
Yeah, and then you got the just.
So courts. Yeah? How is the law enforced? Who enforces the law?
Anything from police officers to the federal police, court
It's not a
system.
trick question. Feel free to answer, guys. It's not a trick question.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So police...
it starts there, and then it just if you've broken a law, then it goes on to court, and then the court decides whether or not you really have broken it, and then you get a judgment, I guess.
And citizens, we can enforce the law by doing the right thing, morally, ethically, having integrity. And that brings us on to our next scenario. So consider you're driving at 3 a.m. in the morning and the traffic light turns red. It is not a red light camera and there are no other vehicles anywhere in sight. Do you stop? Why or why not? Does the enforceability of the law come from its punitive nature, or are we socialised to obey the law? Are we wired to obey it? So what do people think? How about Enzo? What do you think?
Personally, because I know there are a lot of sneaky mobile speed cameras around, and I'll just rather not run the red light, to be honest.
So you'd stop?
I'd definitely stop.
Definitely stop. Anybody else?
Hi, name's Kevin.
Kevin? Hi, Kevin, let me just mark you down as here, please. One moment. Okay. Were you registered in a different shoot, Kevin? Just quickly.
No, I was the same shoot last week.
Same shoot? Okay. So what's your last name, Kevin?
Tran, Tran.
All right, there you go. Found you. Okay. Yep. Sorry, continue.
Cool. So for running a red light, probably might, if in this case, I probably would. And the only thing that would stop me in this case would be the punitive nature of the law. So if I wasn't going to get punished for it, I might do it. You know? But the thing is, if this action wasn't running red light and it was more something like, killing a person, right? My moral values might stop me from doing that. So in this sense, the law can kind of make you do stuff that you wouldn't think is morally, like disregarding your morals. If it's just some action you don't really know if it's right or wrong, you really need that punitive part of the law to enforce it. Otherwise, I would still do it. Does it kind of make sense what I'm trying to say?
It does make sense. It does make sense. So basically, if you don't get caught, if you didn't have the law hanging over your head, you might do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. What do people think about that? Kevin was very honest. I like that. So what do people think about what Kevin said?
Joshua again. I think basically the way that we've been brought up, well, I know myself, but like we're taught to obey the law whether or not there's consequences or not. Obviously there's consequences with everything that we do, but I think it's just the way that most people are wired is to obey directions and obey, whether it's a law or a direction, we obey it. Like, when someone tells you to go and do something, say your parents or something, you go and do. Not that there would be a consequence if you didn't, but just the way that we respect people and the way that we take care of the people around us. And I think in this situation, when we're running a red light, it's just about us respecting the road and respecting that there's other people on it.
Yeah.
Not that we would be punished if we went through it, but we just need to respect that. So I think I would stop, even though there's not a red light camera or a speed.
You say it's intrinsic. You say we are wired to do the right thing.
Well, yes, that's right.
Yep. Okay. Who agrees with Joshua?
Madeline here.
Yep.
I agree with what you were saying with the intrinsic. We're kind of just wired. You see a red light and you kind of just know to stop rather than keep going. Or it might cross your mind that, it's late, there's no one around. But
you might do it by accident.
Yeah, or by accident.
You might be punished for it, but it might be accidental. Yeah.
But I think that, personally speaking, if I was to see a red light, it's just kind of like an automatic instinct to just stop no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Enzo, just to add, since it's 3 a.m. in the morning and there's no cars around, the light will turn green in a matter of seconds anyway. So you may as well just be patient.
Right.
I should add that to patience is a virtue, right?
That's right. Correct.
Dalton, just quickly on that, I think it's interesting it puts in there as well when we've got people talking about, do we do it because it's sort of morally what we call the intrinsic law. Just as it's got in there, it's not a red light camera, taking away the punitive side. It's also got that clear note in there. There's no other vehicles around. I mean, I think if everyone, if it said there's no red light camera, but there's pedestrians walking in the area, all of a sudden people slow down a lot. They're a lot more cautious because we've added that moral risk back into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, good pickup. No one's actually picked that up before in any of the tubes. It's not a red light, so the punitive nature has been eliminated and there are no other vehicles in sight. But I guess then it comes down to what we were all discussing. Do you stop? It's intrinsic. Does it come from within us to do the right thing? Are we socialised to do it? Are we wired to do it? Or is it the punitive nature? You haven't paid attention. You don't know you might get caught. I'm going to stop. So, good pickup.
Can I just add one point?
Sorry, Kevin, we're not all paying you out because you decided to drive through. It was just a good point of discussion. So, please.
So what Madeline and Josh said, I agree with the kind of cultural acceptance thing where you wouldn't do it normally.
Yeah.
But I still think the punitive nature has some kind of role in this as well.
Of course, yeah.
For example, if I were to run this red light, even if by accident, I wouldn't normally do it, but I ran it, that punitive nature will make me feel bad about it. I think that's something worth considering as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
very good. Thank you. Okay. I'll just make a note of the participation. All right. So if we're moving on then, bear with me. Okay. I think that's the next slide. So sources of law. So law in Australia is made by a separation of powers. Tanya, I think, brought that up initially when we were discussing, when she was discussing what is law. So who can tell me what is the separation of powers?
John?
Yep.
I guess you got, first you got criminal law and then you got civil law. And then I guess when you go about in the separation of powers, you got legislative law, like laws made from the parliament. And then you got laws made from executives, so judges, they have to interpret the laws made by the government. And then you got judicial, laws made by your peers, or I guess how they interpret what you've done or the way you've broken the law, but by the community.
Okay, so the criminal and the civil parts that you mentioned there, they're divisions of law. The separation of law, you then touched on it. We have the executive, we have the judicial, and we have the legislative. So the legislative deals with the legislation. It's Parliament. They make the laws. They make our acts. The executive is the administration part, so protocols, procedures, law and action. And the judiciary is judges, so courts. Okay, they interpret the laws that are made and passed down to them. Okay. With the divisions of law then, who can explain to me what the criminal law, so criminal law, the division of criminal law, what does that encompass? So it's a breach against what is what I'm trying to get at. We have criminal and we have civil.
The criminal law is a breach against the state.
The state, yeah. So it's a cause of action against an alleged breach of state. And what's the civil?
Against the people, isn't it?
Yeah, individuals and corporations. So causes of actions. What would be some of the things that would come up within the civil area? So what concepts am I talking about? Am I talking about consent? Am I talking about negligence? Contributory negligence?
Yeah.
Yeah? And what's negligence?
When you fail to act and to ensure other people safety.
Yeah. So we have a duty of care. As health professionals, you have a duty of care. Yeah? What's a duty of care? Anyone?
Is it the four key signs of good healthcare? Or beneficence, non-maleficence, justice, and what's the third one? Fourth one?
No, you're right. It encompasses both. Yeah. Well done, Kevin. All right. I won't go too off topic because we will be touching on those issues later. But if you could get out your activity one, your court hierarchy worksheet, we'll discuss that now. So some people needed a moment to open it up in the previous tutes. Just let me know when you all have it in front of you and we can start.
Yep, got it up.
Yep. Okay. Everyone ready?
Yep.
All right. So we have a table there. On one side, we've got all the courts, and on the other, you're asked to outline the characteristics of the court and the role of the court in the hierarchy. So let's start with the High Court of Australia. By its very name, it is the highest court in the Australian hierarchy. So what else have people researched? What have they found about the characteristics of the High Court?
Well, they can appeal, or they can hear appeals from all of the other Australian courts underneath them.
Yep.
So basically, any court, it can basically be progressed into the High Court, and the High Court can overturn a decision made or something.
Yep.
And they also have a main function to interpret the Constitution to determine whether or not legislation is constitutionally valid.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent. So its decisions are binding. Okay. What kind of decisions does it actually hear? So areas of law. Does it hear international decisions?
I think so, yeah.
Yep.
It's more like legislation as well, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how many judges does it sit with?
I think it was, actually, no, I don't know.
All right. So it starts with 3, nothing less than 3, and it goes up to what?
Is it 9?
Yeah, pretty daunting. Yeah. Imagine 9. Yeah. 9 Supreme.
I was reading, so I wasn't sure, but yeah.
No, excellent. All right. What about the State Court of Appeal? What have people researched and found about the State Court of Appeal? So let's start with an easy one. How many judges?
I think it's 3.
Yep, excellent, Joshua. What else?
Basically, they are like an appeal court for the state court.
Yep.
So basically, it's like a sort of a division of the state court just dealing with appeals. And they come from the Supreme Court. Any cases from the Supreme Court that need to be appealed then go to the State Court of Appeal.
Excellent. Yep. Did anybody else get anything different that they want to share? Remember your participation, guys, it counts.
Well, John, I guess most of the decisions are made by judges and they, I guess, act on both criminal and civil decisions.
Yep. Good. Good.
Like one judge.
Sorry, your last response there was a little bit faint. I couldn't hear you, but essentially I got the gist of what you were saying. Let's move on quickly to the Supreme Court then. So you've got decisions are binding on the district court and the local court, but only persuasive on other Supreme Courts. What does that mean? What is persuasive precedent?
Dalton?
Yep.
So just from the chance I got to look over it, is it where we're looking at a historical a situation that was analogous to this, and in ensuring uniformity, we're looking at it to ensure a degree of consistency, but it's a large enough or high enough level decision that it's not going to be a blanket rule. There's going to be investigation into the specifics of the circumstance, and it may not have exactly the same outcome, but to ensure equity, we are taking into consideration historical outcomes.
Yep, that's right. That's what persuasive precedent means. And I guess what we're saying in terms of the Supreme Court, we're talking about other courts that are at the same level. So Supreme Court versus Supreme Court, okay, they're not bound to each other, but they can use precedent that is established by another Supreme Court to help guide them to make their determination. So yes, exactly what you said. How many judges in the Supreme Court, and is there a jury?
Ada?
Yep.
Isn't there only one judge?
One judge, and is there a jury?
Yes.
Yep.
There is.
So it would hear what kind of matters?
I guess domestic violence or any cases that failed in the local court and you reappeal in the Supreme Court.
Indictable offences.
Criminal offences.
Excellent. All right.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah, sure, Josh.
The Supreme Court really only hears like pretty serious offences like murder, manslaughter, or big civil cases like where it's involving lots and lots and lots of money. Just small cases like small little
traffic offences, AVOs.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't make the Supreme Court. They usually get handled in the district court or the local court.
Yep.
Unless it's like really, really serious.
Yep. I actually did, and I'll just give you guys another example. I've appeared in a matter in the Supreme Court for natural fairness and procedural justice not being afforded to a client in his criminal matter, which was heard in the district court that was appealed from the local court. So it can hear bias. Yeah, it was a big mess. It can hear bias. It can hear matters relating to procedural fairness. So it's not just indictable matters, but it is those more serious matters that derive from indictable matters.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the district court? So if we've said indictable matters can be heard there, what else? Are the decisions binding on a particular court from the district court? So who is bound by the district court?
Madeline here.
Yep.
Isn't the district court just particular for that state or territory? So binding to that state or territory?
Yeah, on the right track, but with specifically the court. So it's just one court. Like we're talking about the hierarchy. So beneath the district court is the lower court. So if the lower court has a decision appealed, it goes to the district court, and then it's binding on the lower court. If it doesn't go beyond that, the lower court decision is set aside, and the district court decision is upheld.
Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Okay. And so just the last one then, we've already touched on it, but we've got the local or magistrates courts. So they hear minor matters. They hear both criminal, they hear both civil. And in the civil matters, you've got, for example, because there's a threshold, a monetary threshold, you have the small claims division and you have the general claims division. Did anybody research what the threshold is, the monetary threshold is?
It's 100,000.
For which division?
Just for civil, oh no, I don't know what, I just saw 100,000. Just know 100,000 is the maximum.
That's the general claims. Yeah. So it's much smaller in the small claims division.
Yeah, I know small claims is probably like 10 or 20,000, I think.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Good participation. All right. Now what I'm going to try and do, guys, and I did it in the previous tute, it worked successfully, is I'm just going to show you how to do some legal research. The first point there is fairly straightforward. So each court has its own website. So if you type in Supreme Court, if you type in the Federal Magistrates Court or the Family Court of Australia, you'll be taken to that court's website. You'll be able to see the practice notes and the practice rules for that court. Every court has different rules that they have to adhere to, and it will tell you in those rules how far the discretion of the judges can actually go. Okay, that's the first point. But I think what will be of interest is the legal databases. So I'll go through OSLI with you. LexisNexis is available to you through the online library previews. Okay, so you can type in the search engine there and look up your cases for your online presentations. But I'll do these OSLI now. So I'm just going to stop share and bring up my screen. Okay. So bear with me. Share it again. Okay, can you all see my screen for OSLI? Yeah? Okay, have any of you used OSLI before? No? All right. So if we just go back then to the home page. So this is what OSLI is a free legal site, so anybody can access it anywhere. LexisNexis, you have to be a subscribed user. Basically, what you'll need to do for your online tutorials, your presentations that is whatever topic you pick, whether it's consent or negligence, contributory negligence, you can basically come into OSLI, and if I type in the word negligence, as you'll see I've done, and I search, just a general search, okay, lots of articles, case law, law journal reports come up, okay? So if I pick one, now I picked a bad one, a bad example in the last tube, but say I picked this one. So this case, you can see by the nature, it's the High Court of Australia, so it's been appealed. You can see the judges there, okay? So this is the appeal decision, but it means that it has derived from a previous decision. Up the top here, you'll see, so I'll highlight it now, you'll see that there's different case citations. It derived from the Commonwealth Law Reports, the Australian Law Reports, and the Australian Law Journal Reports. So you can get just be wary that when you're doing your research, you'll have high court decisions and district court decisions and lower court decisions. And if you want to start from the initial case, like the initial matter, you need to go through your precedent here, and you'll see that it was heard previously. Where's the number? Sorry, so up here again, sorry. You'll see that it was heard previously with this court citation. So instead of putting the High Court of Australia case 6, you'll put OSLI and Austrust Ltd 1999 197 Commonwealth Law Reports to get the initial decision. All right? The other thing to remember when you're going through OSLI is it's got catchwords. So here, it will tell you what this case deals with and the legal terms that have come up. So if this is what your topic is focused on, if your topic is focused on negligence and contributory negligence, this would be a really good case, okay? And you would use this as part of your research in your online presentations. The other thing that I'll point out to you, and if you click on, just quickly, if you click on any of these, obviously it will open the Act and you can have a look at what section they're referring to. But it does go through, when you scroll down to the very end, it's a long case, so let's do this. When you scroll down to the end, it will tell you other cases that have been cited. So like this case, for example. So that's yet another case that you can use as research for your presentation, okay? Because we are looking for how many sources you have and how extensive your research is, all right? So does anybody have any questions about OSLI? It doesn't just have case law, it does have articles as well. I'll see if I can find one, so maybe this one here. When it opens up, let's see the general gist. Okay, so there is an article there that you can also use. Just be sure to reference it properly, okay? Some of them are more, and I was telling the other class, don't use too many that are dated 1957, 1912. Try and get the most recent case law and articles, okay?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Sorry, Madeline here.
Yeah.
With the cases and like the articles and stuff that we find on resources like this, obviously that one that we opened up was 1999. So is something like that acceptable, or is that kind of...
And you can show a pattern. So you can start with something in 1999 and say, but then in 2005 it was overturned with this case, and then in 2015. So you can establish your own case law, your own precedent, and your own argument. Okay?
Cool.
Right. So I'm going to just stop the share again and open up the slides. So bear with me. Okay, are we back? Can everyone see? Everyone can see the slide? Yeah?
Yes.
You've all muted your mics, but I'll take that as a yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go on then to fundamental legal principles. So we've touched on the separation of powers. You can see that beautiful little picture there. It explains it clearly. You've touched on precedent, so the doctrine of precedent, a body of case law that is created and interpreted by judges over time. But we haven't touched on the rule of law. So who can tell me what is the rule of law? Who haven't I heard from in a while? I don't know who's here on my list because I believe some people have joined. How about Kevin? Do you want to have a go?
Yep.
What's the rule of law?
So the rule of law is it states that all people, including the government, should be ruled by the law and obey it, and that the law should be such that people are guided by it. And it involves three main principles: certainty, which is law should be prospective, open and clear. Stable is to maximize autonomy of individuals and groups in society.
Yeah.
Generality is the second one. And law should be impersonal and non-particularized. And equality, so all people should be equally subject to the law. And there's like other little factors that have characteristics to
The
the
general concept or notion that nobody is above the law. Those who make and enforce the law are included. Even me as a solicitor, I'm not above the law. In fact, I'm punished more harshly because I should have known the rules, right? Which I think is a little bit unfair, but in any event. All right. So the law is universally applied. It's over and above the individual, which gives it its enforceability. Okay, so have a think. Is the rule of law practically applied? Or are there inconsistencies in terms of administration? Who wants to have a go?
Dalton.
Yep.
I think by its very nature, and more importantly, just by its scope, the fact that no matter how well articulated and defined the law is, it's always relating to people, enforced by people, and decided on by people. There's always going to be a human error factor in there.
Yep.
The idea of it is completely universal and completely consistent, but in practice, so it's not really a feasible item as long as we're putting human beings in the mix.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add to what Dalton said?
Yeah, I think there are some gray areas because the law reflects more of a consensus of what the community thinks as well. So in that sense, that kind of takes away from the whole universal concept of rule of law, at times anyway.
Yeah. Sure. How about Enzo? I haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think?
I'm pretty blank on this aspect. I apologize.
That's okay. If we go to the worksheets, guys, the second part of the worksheet, which discusses the legal principles, the first question there is obviously discuss what is meant by the term of rule of law and provide 3 examples. Did you get anything for that, Enzo, for 3 examples? The 3 examples that enforce or explain the term rule of law. So I'll give you an example. You've got separation of powers into executive, legislative, and judiciary. What else? What else did people get?
John, I guess when you're looking at it, you got precinct, how every case is based on a previous case.
Yep,
Well.
so the doctrine of precedent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I guess to a certain extent, not every case is based individually. Reference to a previous case.
Okay. I'll help you guys out. I'll tell you what my answers are, and then we can probably generate some discussion around that. So I got freedom of the press, procedural fairness, and appeals and review of government decisions. So freedom of press, do you think that people in the media are subject to or abide by the concept or the notion of rule of law? So they're not above the law. So if somebody leaks information to them, what do you think they should do with it?
Maybe just in the way you phrase it, are the people involved in the media subject to rule of law? Of course, the people are, but it's a matter of distinguishing that person and whether they're actually breaking the law or their practice or their role within a media organisation. You know, is it this person who has done something wrong, or is this information that was unlawful to distribute the way it was? So there is a little bit of a separation between individual and commercial role there.
Yep. Okay, Enzo, do you want to have a go? Anybody else?
What was the question, sorry?
So we're just talking about freedom of the press,
Yep.
and the rule of law. So that was one of the examples that I got. So the notion that no person or institution is above the law and that all should be treated equally before the law. Examples including freedom of the press. And we're just generating some discussion around that, and people are telling me what they think.
Well, I think that's really true if you look at the WikiLeaks and how they are getting persecuted right now. This journalist in China, because he was reporting what's happening in China about the protests and all that, and he got thrown into jails because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to Australian standards, it's pretty harsh that he got thrown into jail because of what he did, but that just shows that nobody is above the law, and it just depends on what kind of law, and you just have to know it, I guess. And law can be unfair as well.
Yeah. Okay, good point. I've just noted the time, so I do want to go through the worksheet with you. We'll just move along a little bit quickly. So the next question, explain how the separation of powers is necessary for the upholding of the rule of law.
I'm guessing that one actually. Is that to prevent a power being put on one person, like nobody can take a dictatorship kind of role?
Yeah, exactly. So it's to avoid a power imbalance. It's to avoid anarchy and tyranny. Yeah, exactly. All right. Which of the following are characteristics of the rule of law and which of these are not? So let's start with judges appointed by the military. Is it a rule of law or is it not?
No.
It's not. Why? Who said that, by the way, just quickly?
Joshua.
Joshua, why?
I don't know. I sort of really guessed this one, but
okay, have a go.
I guess the military is not really high up in the legal system, really. It's just a defense. They're just appointed to defend our country, I guess.
Okay, can anybody add to that?
Dalton?
Yep.
So I'm actually an ex-serviceman, so just interesting, obviously really dependent on the level, but I would say that the more minor disciplinary cases that did need to be heard within a legal framework with the Defence Force Discipline Act and the additional laws that servicemen are upheld to and subject to, there are definitely scenarios where those judgments or the people in judgment have been placed there from a military capacity. But that obviously pertains to a very specific environment, not the general Australian legal system.
Yeah, no, thank you. Excellent. All right. How about the right to remain silent upon arrest? Rule of law or not?
Isn't that a universal thing? I'm not too sure.
Sorry, Tanya?
I'm not too sure if it's the rule of law, but I think that's pretty universal that you have the right to be silent.
Well, you're right. It is the rule of law. So if it was a guess, well done. All right. Let's move on, guys, quickly. So the social, cultural, moral, political and economic influences on law. List 4 social changes that have influenced lawmakers in the past 50 years.
I know one of them.
Yep.
Gun violence.
Yeah. What else, guys?
Discrimination.
Yeah. Excellent.
Sorry, that was Joshua.
Dalton, immigration law.
Yep, immigration law, definitely. What else? I got a few more that nobody said.
The lockout law.
Sorry?
Alcohol, the new alcohol law that you can't buy alcohol after a certain time.
Yeah, that was one that I haven't heard yet. But yeah. Okay, Enzo, did you get something for this one?
I'm not sure about this one, but probably even the lockout laws.
Yeah. Okay.
I just said that one.
Soon to be. I heard something that they're soon to be, taken down, but don't quote me on that. But I did put that one down still.
Okay. So I'll just give you a few of the things that I have. So I have increased women's participation in the labour force, ageing population, increased cultural and religious diversity, greater acceptance of homosexuality. Okay. If you want to just, I don't know, if you want to make notes of that on your sheet, that's fine as well for future information. So the next point, consider the following. Most state and territory jurisdictions in Australia have considered or have passed laws relating to the registration of same-sex partnerships. Pressure is being placed on the federal government to allow same-sex couples to marry, adopt, and access IVF services like heterosexual couples. Outline how social changes have created the situation detailed above. So give me some examples.
Can I go for this one?
Yep.
Okay, Kevin again. Okay, so one answer that I have is from a contractarian perspective.
Mm-hmm.
To this question, the answer to this question lies in the idea that moral behavior are irreducibly political. In other words, moral rules exist to provide social order, ensure society, that will improve the lives of individuals. So in that sense, individuals can also be seen as also both rational and self-interested. Mm-hmm. And from this frame, an abundance of same-sex couples could pressure the government to push for the things same-sex couples find important, such as marriage and IVF services. But that's not to say that other couples don't find these things important, but more so the fact that these issues have arisen via an abundance of this new moral frame. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's society. So we have to adapt. We have to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Society is demanding a change, and as a result, we need to change what we're going to say about it.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Dalton.
Yeah.
Just to say, I think the word you picked out for there, it's an adaptation is a good way to put it. In that, this is not a leap and bound that's come forward. I mean, if you went back to the 40s or 50s, putting forward the notion of same-sex marriage was utterly ridiculous. But it's over the past matter of centuries, we've seen introduction of suffragette movement, women getting increased rights, and anti-discrimination, increase in anti-discrimination from an immigration perspective, and now it's reached the point where this has become one of the cornerstone issues. So it's not something that has propped up as a one-off issue that you make a jump on. It's something that has been almost eased into with more socially acceptable adaptations building up over time.
Yeah, exactly. I can tell you from my own experience, the definition of marriage in the family court has changed. So when I started my legal career, it was black and white. In the Family Law Act, marriage is between husband and wife. But now, as a result of same-sex couples who want to marry or who want to adopt children, we have to change how we interpret the meaning of the word marriage and partnership. And that has influenced the law significantly in the family court and the children's court. So, yeah, it is an adaptation. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the next question. With reference to the following pieces of legislation, explain how cultural influences have affected the law. So we have the Racial Discrimination Act and the Anti-Discrimination Act. Who wants to have a go? Telling us their answer. Arta, do you want to have a go?
Yeah, sure. I was just going to say that well, now, you know, people, there's freedom of practice, like you can practice your religion freely. But I don't know if that falls under the Racial Discrimination Act. But
so what you're talking about is cultural diversity?
Yeah, so people are allowed to express their religion. You don't have to. I know that Australia is predominantly a Christian country, but other religions like Hinduism or Buddhism, like they can practice here. They don't have to become Christian just because Australia is predominantly a Christian religion.
That's right. So ultimately, cultural diversity has resulted in our need to protect minority cultural groups from negative discrimination. That's what you're saying. Yep. Mm-hmm. The passing of legislation, this legislation seeks to safeguard their interests. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
And also the taking down the White Australia policy under the Whitlam government. Enzo, by the way.
Yeah.
That was considering that there has been a whole heap of non-Europeans settling in Australia for the period of probably about 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
I forgot the period before the White Australia policy was taken down, but 17 years before that, there was like a huge immigration of those non-Europeans, and that's probably what influenced.
Yeah. Joshua, did you want to add to that? I noticed your screen popped up on mine, so did you have something?
No, I didn't say anything. I was just agreeing with it.
Agreeing? Okay, no worries. All right, if we move on quickly, guys, to the next question. So social welfare is for the common good of all. Explain the effects of economic influences on lawmaking in Australia. Who wants to take the reins on that one?
Dalton.
Yep.
I think this is one of the ones you can come at it from whichever angle, you know, you particularly want to argue, but just looking at what we've already talked about today, if we go back to the base of positivism and this idea that the law and what we're setting up is based on what we believe is right and what is intrinsically right to us, then it's building off of that notion of, you know, sort of charitable values, compassionate values, things that are instilled in you, being expressed into a structured sort of cultural system rather than just a personal value.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Does anybody want to expand on what Dalton said or add to what Dalton said?
I just want to just point one thing out. It's not really, I don't know if it's related, but I guess because the way, you know, Australia is sort of built, the way that our industries work, it's all relating economy, money, like everything we, when we're working, the way we're treated has always got to do with money. And I suppose in that aspect, it's a way that, you know, like especially with employees, the way that they treat their own employers, the way that they treat their employees is always to do with how much money they're paying, or like the laws around that, I think have definitely changed based on the way that our economy is currently like expanding. I guess the way that, well, what I'm trying to say is because our economy is constantly growing, it's shown the need for new laws to be passed, especially in taxation law, and
taxation
law.
I got that, and I was waiting for someone to say it.
Yeah. And the way that corporations are allowed to deal with each other, like when you got like, I guess, big companies like, I don't know, Woolworths and Coles or something, like they're doing unfair practices and they're squashing out the small businesses. So in a situation like that, we've got to pass a law that protects those small businesses in a struggling time. So, you know, when we're like, then that refers back to the expanding economy. When we've got big money coming in from overseas, you know, investors investing in companies such as Woolworths and Coles, they're able to discount costs and stuff and undercut those small businesses. How can we protect those small businesses? And that is through laws, essentially.
Yep. Excellent. Well done. All right. That was a really good response. Okay, so, and I'm just noting the time, but we've got 2 more questions to get through. So with reference to legislation, explain how the law can shape social attitudes and is also shaped by social changes.
Can I do this one?
Yep.
And so social attitudes can...
Is that Kevin?
Yep.
Yep. Go for it, Kevin.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Just didn't pop up again on my screen. That's okay.
Yeah.
Can you?
So social attitudes can fight laws.
Yeah.
More of an example is if the law fails to comply with rules of ethics, so when laws are unjust, it will be considered just to fight them. So some lawyers could argue that these laws have no force or legitimacy, and it would be from that notion that the more socially unacceptable the law is, whilst being proportional to unethicality, it's more likely to argue against and then thus revoked, or at least altered in that sense. That sort of makes sense.
So laws can actually shape social values. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So anti-smoking laws are a response to social pressure. What do people think about the anti-smoking laws? Are they effective? And how do people view them? How do people feel about them? What are those laws essentially doing to people who smoke?
Dalton, what they're doing, obviously, aside from the immediate effect on them, I think it's become more effective and has made a bigger impact over time as younger generations that have grown up with those laws in effect have grown up with the normalised idea that smoking is something that is that dangerous or that against social norm, that you're basically segregated for it, that you're, that you can publicly advertise and campaign how bad it is. When you've grown up in an environment where your own government is backing and funding ad campaigns to show how bad this is, and it's a lot easier to take the attitude that it is something that's bad and to have a view against it and against people who do it.
Yeah. Good. Okay. We're running out of time, but just quickly, the abortion drug RU486 was subject to a conscious vote by Parliament during 2006. Explain how individual morality shapes the decisions of parliamentarians when voting for or against a bill. Who wants to have a go?
Ada?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that if you're someone who's religious or you've grown up in a cultural background where you're against abortion, it's very easy to allow your belief to either be against or with the bill. So I think it's really easy to allow what your upbringing to interfere with that decision and put your personal beliefs into it.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at it from a third person's perspective and looking outside the box as to why it could be good for or beneficial for people who want to have an abortion. And I think that can sort of cloud your judgment, your moral beliefs.
Yeah. So parliamentarians are human beings who are subject to a large number of their own influences based on their own ethical code or moral code and how they act within their own moral compass.
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Excellent. All right. So just quickly before we run out of time, I was going to take the role again, but I think I've pretty much got everyone. There's only 10 people here anyway. So just reminders, remember to post your blogs online because I will be marking them on Friday by 5 p.m. Your group allocations open on Monday. So remember 7 a.m., first in, first serve. And don't forget to do your create tasks for next week. Okay?
So just one quick thing. The discussion has to be posted by Friday, right?
Yeah. So Friday, 5 p.m. is when I'll then log on and I'll see who's contributed and I'll mark your online, I'll mark the discussion board and I'll give you a grade.
In last week's discussion, was marked or should we?
So week one, you should have discussed it, you should have actually participated anyway because I think it's really good for us to see who started the work and who started the readings. It's not going to be marked, but I will be going over it to see who started it and what kind of responses you were giving. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, guys? No, you're all good. All right. Well, I'll see you next week.
All right.
Happy reading.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.